everybody. My name is Leo Kelly. I have the pleasure of being the CEO of Verdence Capital Advisors, and welcome to From the Ground Up. From the Ground Up is a podcast where we'll be talking to business owners and learning about their experiences, their successes, their challenges, and how they've navigated their way to the success that they enjoy and the business that they've built. Our hope over time is to tell stories and to give ideas and tips to budding entrepreneurs, to existing entrepreneurs, maybe business owners who are thinking about selling a business or continuing to operate a business generationally. We have the absolute pleasure to work with business owners as clients. The primary business that we have here at Verdence Capital Advisors is advising entrepreneurs. And so my Chief Marketing Officer, Michele Welsh, and I had been talking for some time about gathering the incredible stories that we've heard over the years from the business owners that we represent, and pulling those stories together and telling a story over a long period of time about success in business. More importantly, success from the ground up. So we hope you enjoy these conversations. I'm excited about it. It's my favorite part of my job is listening to how people have earned that success and how people have built their wealth. So with that, I'm going to introduce our Chief Marketing Officer, Michele Welsh, who is in her Ravens gear here on Ravens Friday.
Team spirit.
As the Ravens go to the AFC Championship. So everybody in town here is excited. I'm a Giants fan, so I'm wearing my Giants blue jacket.
Outcast.
But we'll still root for the Baltimore home team. So with that, Michele, welcome to the From the Ground Up podcast.
Thank you. And I'm excited that we are finally launching this because we've been talking about it off and on for, it seems like forever.
Exactly.
And the stories that you share with me of business owners, I think everyone else would be interested in hearing too. Yeah,
they're incredible stories. And I think probably our first challenge was putting a list of guests together because there's so many. And it's not just business owners. It's going to be a lot of different types of stories. And I think what it'll be about is grit, right?
And I think there are plot twists in all of these stories, which is, surprising that business owners don't get there the same way over the same time period. They have to pivot several times, and that's really interesting.
Yeah, it goes back to, I think you and I have shared the story before. A lot of times, and I think a lot of the folks out there who are listening to this will understand, you hear the word lucky all the time. Oh, you're so lucky. Yeah,
lucky.
It's just fallen into place so well for you over time. What great luck you have. And luck, as we talk about all the time, luck is recognizing an opportunity, understanding what that opportunity is involved in that opportunity. It's working to build that opportunity into a reality, working hard, executing, understanding risk, and then you're an overnight success years later after all that hard work, and people look at you and go, wow, what you really got lucky. You really did well here. And so what today and what our future podcasts are going to be, right, is unpacking that quote unquote luck, right, and telling the real story. And hopefully, my goal for this podcast is each time a listener listens in, not only are they inspired by the entrepreneurial stories we're going to share, but if they can pull 1-2 really gold nuggets out of these, where they go back to their world and they use a couple of these gold nuggets and it makes them better. If we can do that, that's what we try to do every day here at Verdence, is just make the outcome better. And that's what this is all about.
So we'd be talking to many different types of business owners from the service side, product side, software side, development, GovCon, you name it. Businesses that may be flying under the radar a little bit that they've really made an incredible enterprise out of. So I think we've got some really unexpected and exciting guests lined up.
Well, I think you just hit, I think as we think about where we are today in the world of social media and 24-hour financial news, entrepreneurialism has somehow turned into billion dollar or billionaire tech entrepreneurs, right? And everything is taken on such a, almost a theatrical presence. And I think one of the fun parts is that this is going to be, we're going to talk to people with businesses that are diverse in nature, right? There's some really interesting businesses that you don't think about every day. But one of the great things about capitalism and the American capitalistic system is, my goodness, people have figured out a way to make money and build wealth a lot of different ways. And that's the exciting part about this.
Yeah, so much has changed. And I think what's really exciting about this as well, not only working with business owners, but you became a business owner. You were a breakaway from a very big wirehouse. Can I say the name?
Sure. Merrill Lynch.
And you went through those growing pains of building a business yourself. So you were in the company of our clients, and you also did the same.
Yeah. So I started at Merrill Lynch in the mid '90s, coming from Bloomberg. I was an analyst. I went to Merrill. I out of college, I joined Merrill Lynch's financial planning division. So I was in corporate America, right? Big Merrill Lynch, Mother Merrill corporate, and up in New Jersey, and it was a good time. It was a good time to learn about something I would become passionate about, right? That is financial planning, and really, it's not just the planning. I became passionate about outcomes. Right? I became passionate about taking a complex situation and analyzing the situation and coming up with creative ways to make the outcome better. That's what financial planning is for clients. And obviously that translates to business. And so after a couple of years of doing that, I went into production, as we call it, which is I started a book of business and started to advise clients, not from a corporate perspective, but as a financial advisor. Moved down here to Baltimore, which was a astonishing move at the time. At the time I had this great job. I was making a lot of money, and my wife was a pharmacist in New Jersey. So together we were making a lot of money for our age, and coming up the way we grew up, we thought it was all the money in the world. And, part of going into business is accepting risk. And part of it is not just understanding the risk, but accepting it, relishing in it, really challenging the risk head on. And if you're someone who only sees it and is consumed by it, it will freeze you, and you're not an entrepreneur. But for us, I had the opportunity to come down to Baltimore. It was a wonderful opportunity. My wife couldn't be a pharmacist down here. We had 6-month-old twins we had to move down. We took a 3/4 pay cut, sold the house of what we thought was the house of our dreams, moved into an apartment.
What could possibly go wrong from that? That sounds like a rosy story, a rosy beginning.
It's obviously a well-laid plan. And we had 3/4 pay cut, new twins. We don't know a soul in Baltimore other than the mentor who talked me into coming down here. And I was going to get paid on how many assets I brought in from new clients. And I don't think I even appreciated how much risk I took at that moment until years later when I looked back on it.
Yeah, but that's an important component, I think, that would probably become a common theme for these conversations, and that is seeing the forest through the trees, looking at the long-term outcomes, because I think when you're faced with building a business, it's those daily decisions that tend to consume you.
Well, you can't let the daily decisions consume you, right? You just can't. I think about those origins and coming here and starting, and then I think about Verdence today. So Verdence, for those who don't know Verdence, we're a wealth management company. We have family office practice. We have sorts of business-to-business practice where we run money and run operations for smaller RIAs. And an RIA is a registered investment advisor, which is what we are, which means we are a fiduciary advisor to our clients. Our clients tend to be very high net worth families, and we engage deeply with the clients. And we've had the great fortune to build up to this point a significant business. It's we manage $3.5 billion in assets. We have close to 50 employees, and most importantly, we are a family. We have this incredible family culture and hyper collaborative culture, and it's been incredibly fun to build this. It's been hard. It's been a lot of work. There's been the traditional moments in business where you're kind of biting your nails saying, all right, I really better dig in to make this work. But I think about leaving Trenton, New Jersey, where I grew up, and going into that, quite frankly, shitty apartment that my wife and I went into. I thought she was ever going to leave me. It was going to be right at that moment. And then I think about today and that path. And I mean, maybe I am lucky.
What I think is extraordinary is you left a very comfortable position as an advisor within Merrill, and that's got to be a tough decision for anyone who has the stability and consistency of working for a larger firm, a larger company or brokerage, and making that leap to go independent because you knew long term it was going to be the right move for you, for your clients, and so taking that step can be a little bit scary, I think, in every business. Well,
it's interesting you say that because I've done the big entrepreneurial thing more than once. Right? I did it 3 times, and so the first one was all the way back as a senior in high school. Rather than go to college, I decided, hey, I'm going to sell copiers because I was working in the warehouse of a copier distributor. And so my senior year of high school, rather than go to school for a whole day, I'd go for half a day, and then I go sell copiers the other half a day. I'm a senior in high school. And I was making a lot of money, as much as my dad. And again, it was, we grew up pretty modestly. And so, it was exciting. Who needs college, right? And so I just walked into entrepreneurialism. I was a salesman. I was out and got out of high school. I didn't go to college. I just started selling copiers. And 18, I'm on my own. I got my own apartment, a couple cars, spending all my money. Wish I had a financial advisor. My wife moved in with me. We were both 19, and we started our lives together. And it was this amazing, and that's important because that part of the story, because I had that in me. And then I realized, you know what? This is not what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So I guess the tip or the experience I could give is when you hear that, listen to it. Because time has a way of just cementing you further and further into whatever you're doing. So if that moment hits you and you know that it's time to make that move, it's easier to stand pat, especially if you're doing okay. For an 18-year-old kid, I was making an incredible amount of money. And yet, by the time I was 21, 22, I had left the business, went to college full time. My wife and I had to move back in my parents' place, and we grinded our way through school. She became a pharmacist. I got a finance degree. I went to work for the big corporate Merrill Lynch, and I was...
You started from the ground up yet again.
Right. Well, but I was doing the steady thing, and then it hit me. No, I want to be an entrepreneur. So when I came here to Maryland, I was running a practice, not a business. It's probably one of the most common mistakes you make when you're a financial advisor at a big wirehouse. You think you're running a business. You're not. You're running a practice. But it was still very entrepreneurial, right? Had to be creative, had to build a business. We built a very nice business. We were one of the larger teams at Merrill. Was enjoying myself. And then several years later, big team. We were making a lot of money. Life was kind of easy. And just like those days back in the copier world, for my age especially, everything's kind of cruising along. And, that bug, that voice inside my head said, this is not what you want to do for the rest of your life. And what I realized was I was working, I was sleeping with my eyes open. I was talking to clients, and it was a good life, and I enjoyed my work, but I wasn't driven. I had lost that moment. And so the trigger was Bank of America comes in, buys Merrill Lynch after the financial crisis, and I realized, as much as I loved Merrill, and I did, that it was time again. And so for the second time, while my wife and I were together, I went to her and said, hey, I'm going to radically uproot our lives. And she said, great, let's go. And so we left Merrill, and we went independent. We started what would eventually become Verdence. Now, it came in 2 phases. When we left Merrill originally, we knew we wanted to be business owners. We knew we wanted to be entrepreneurs. But I think the problem was we didn't know how. One thing that we try to do, I'll never be accused of having a small ego, but you try to keep your ego in check, especially when making business decisions. And so when we left Merrill, we really wanted to hang our own shingle and create what is Verdence today. But the reality was we weren't ready. We didn't know how to do that. We didn't know how to think strategically. We didn't know how to build long-term plans. We didn't know how to execute. So we went almost all the way.
Right? It was a great interim step.
It was great. We went to a company called Hightower, and Hightower was a collection of large teams that were leaving wirehouses, and we started our business then called Kelly Wealth Management. And it was great. We were there for 5 years. We learned how to be business owners. And so, again, the bug, the voice, the drive, and suddenly my blood was pumping again, right? And we started to bring our partners, started to join us, and we started to build a real business, real collaborative business. And along the way, several of my partners are coming into the firm, and we're really building a great business. We're growing. And yet still, 5 years later, what we realized is it's time to take the other step. And that's how we got to Verdence, right? We said, okay, now it's time. Now it's time to control our capital, control our decision-making, and really have it be ours. And we had a very nice, amicable agreement with Hightower, and Verdence was born. And there's nowhere else to go now. Now it's ours.
It's too late. There's no looking back now.
Yeah.
And I love the part of this story too. It just, for me, the word that comes to mind is fearless. Or in the face of fear, still being able to take action. And
big difference.
There is a big difference, but
right.
Without going into our entire balance sheet, what I found astounding is the amount of growth, personal growth and firm growth, and the number of clients and happy clients that happened since you've made the transition to Verdence.
Right. Well, again, since we started Verdence, and it was an interesting path, because when we started Verdence, one thing that we've always said, all my partners and I, the founding partners of the firm who came in and started Verdence with me, we have a theme here, and basically it's build the business as if the client was the architect. And the message behind that is really quite simple. It's put the client first, do the right thing, build the business with them in mind first, and you're gonna grow. If you believe in the people you're with, if you work collaboratively, and if you keep thinking, okay, how would the client want us to do this? You're gonna grow. That's a natural consequence of that attitude.
Yeah, and that's the true form of empathy, right? Putting yourself in their shoes.
Yeah. Well, as you say, the platinum rule, right?
The platinum rule is right.
One of Michelle's very famous sayings. That, and we're not trying to boil the ocean here.
Yeah, I've got a lot of them. I have a whole handful. I haven't even revealed all of my great quotes yet.
If you're an entrepreneur out there, don't try to boil the ocean. No, but those early days were interesting because, and I guess from my story, and sometimes as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and those who already had success understand this, so I'm not giving any insight, but for those who are thinking about it or at the beginning, what I can tell you is there's these really interesting moments along the way. Leaving the copier business and going back to school and going from making a lot of money to having nothing. Leaving New Jersey and coming down here a 3/4 pay cut to start my practice. Leaving Merrill and having to go through a transition and fight your way through those very, very long days, 120-hour weeks with, a select group of people who are still with me, who helped me through that. When we left Hightower and we started Verdence, one of the things we had to do, we had to transition clients over, and we didn't want them to feel the strain or stress of the move since we just moved from Merrill. So we actually built the first version of Verdence was the exact same business we had at Hightower. We had to build an exact replica. Basically the way I tell the story is it's like you're driving in a car 60 miles an hour, and you've got to build a brand new car, exact same car, catch up to the other car, move exactly at 60 miles an hour, and jump from one car to the other and not feel anything.
Indiana Jones does it all the time. I don't know why you're...
Yeah, well, Trent and Leo had to do it.
That's right.
And so we did that, and it's funny. You flip the switch. We're Verdence Capital Advisors. We have $1.2 billion, $1.3 billion in assets. We now have, we brought some folks with us.
And this was 2017, right?
2017.
So 1.2 billion in 2017.
Right. And so, my partners come along, says Tom New and Rich Rosa, Matt Moore, John Morgan, Brian Sabo, Avery Perkna, Brian Grumbach. They're all in the room, and Steve Thacker, and we're ready to go. And Charlie Holt, who now runs our Alexandria office, he joins us on day one, and we have 12 employees, right? And $1.2 billion, and we're a business. We had this vision for growth and for building what our company is today, which is a platform company, and in the business. And so, we built this whole thing, and then literally day one, we started breaking it down and building the new Verdence. If I could give a young entrepreneur, a tip, it would be, don't be afraid to take that one step back, as long as it gets you 10 steps forward. And those are the hard moments. Those are the tough moments to say, okay, this is going to be hard, right? This is sacrifice. This is a huge risk. This could go wrong. And yet you have to know in your heart of hearts, this is going to work. And so when we built the business to break, essentially, and then we started rebuilding the business, that cost us a year or so. Between changing the business over and market activity, it wasn't really till 2019 that we were settled. The clients were in great shape. The business was restructured. We were ready to grow. We were excited about what we were about to do, and then we could grow. So now we're ready to build what is today Verdence. And thankfully, we've had a lot of growth over 5 years.
Yeah, and it's been amazing. I think about, when I first learned to ski, I was going through a trail in the woods, and the instructor said, don't focus on the trees, focus on the path. Right. And I think that really is a great analogy for what you're able to do, and that is focus on the long term. Go through these rough patches and know that you're putting some sweat equity in, and that there's a bigger outcome at the end for you, for your clients, for your partners.
Well, and also know that your greatest strengths are often your greatest weaknesses at the same time. And for me, I did this years ago. When we first joined Hightower, I reluctantly did this OAS survey, and they tell you how your brain's wired. And so I sit down with this individual who's an expert at this, and I did this questionnaire, and he doesn't even interview me. He's just like, all right, now I know everything about you. I said, well, this is ridiculous. What a bunch of bullshit. So he pulls out his information. He said, all right, Leo, let me describe you. And damned if the son of a gun didn't nail it. Perfect. And we did one on everybody in the firm, and he nailed everybody in the firm perfectly. And the interesting thing he said to me, and I try to keep this, and this is that, however successful you are, just keep focused on what you still can do better and how you can personally improve, right? Personal growth. And so for me, he said, look, Leo, you're a detail person, but you look out. You see where you're going. You see your outcome. You're constant, and you see it as clear as day. The problem is not everybody sees that, and you are impatient with anybody who can't see exactly what you see. And I was like, damn, you're right.
I was going to say, that was pretty much spot on.
Pretty much spot on. So he said, it's all about having the right people. And so, having a great collaborative team around you and acknowledging that you need folks to fill in the gaps. And I think that's one of the things we do great here.
Yeah, I would agree. And I cannot wait. And, of course, I'm going to be involved in this very first episode, but I'll have the luxury of sitting back and listening to all the great conversations and that we're going to be having. And spoiler alert, I don't want us to give all of our stories away in the first episode, but we're going to be talking about things like culture. What role does culture have in the success or failure of a business?
Everything.
We're going to talk about, how you choose the right people, how you give them the runway to grow. You mentioned your personal growth. So there are going to be a lot of things in store, and I cannot wait to get started.
Yeah, and again, spoiler alert, what you're going to hear from us pretty consistently is just our belief, right? Culture is everything. And every company has a culture. It may be a great culture, it may be a terrible culture. It may be a a grind it out, the beatings will continue until the morale improves culture. And it may be, what we enjoy, which is a family-oriented culture, super collaborative. We like to have a lot of fun. We like to enjoy each other's company. Whatever it is, it takes work, right? It takes work to have everybody, still rowing the boat. Whether you're yelling at them or whether you're encouraging them, it takes work, and you have to believe in it, and you have to identify it. And that's something from day one we were always 100% about it. We're going to have a great culture. We're going to have people who love to come to work every day. One of our moments of pride is since COVID, when it was bad, we took a couple weeks of time at home to make sure everybody was safe. But we're full-time in the office, and we have been, and people enjoy being here. And we've created an environment for that. So I think, as you think about your business, the building of your business, the creation of a new business, culture drives your activities. It drives your successes and your failures. And I think for us, that's focus number one, right? And you could say, well, isn't the client focus number one? No, the client is part of the culture, right? There's not two cultures. There's one culture. It's the culture of everything you do. So if the client is the focus of our business, then they're the focus of our culture.
Yeah, they're part of our community. We say that a lot.
Absolutely. So that obviously will be a significant focus, right? It's going to be, how did you do it? How did you manage risk? What did you overcome? What were the roughest parts? And then tell us about who you are. Right? Who are you as a company? Who are you as a business? Who are you as a leader?
Yeah, well, who am I as part of this podcast is I'm the one that says when we wrap it up. So, Leo, I think we wrap up the first episode.
So that's a polite way of saying, Leo, you've talked enough. I've got to listen to this for the rest of the year. That's enough.
Let's end on a high note.
Oh, this is a high note? All right. Well, this is Leo Kelly again, and thank you, everybody, for being a part of the very first From the Ground Up. We're going to have some fun. It'll be a lot more fun when there's a more interesting person than me on the other side of the microphone. But we're going to have some fun. We're going to tell a lot of stories. And again, I hope that what this becomes is almost a masterclass learning series for people who are in business. You may have a bigger business. You may have a smaller business. You may be new. You may be thinking about it. But I know one thing. For me, I'm always not just anxious, but I get overly excited when I get to talk to somebody who's done something unique, creative, and had success in doing so. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I'm going to. If not, I'll keep doing it anyway because I love doing it. So thanks very much for being a part of this today. And by the way, I think I'm supposed to tell you to subscribe to our podcast on...
We are on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcast. You can find it on our website. So if you want to, you can find us. But certainly, hit that subscribe button and the alarm button so you get notified whenever we have a new episode.
Exactly. Do that, or just come by and I'll repeat everything in my office live.
And he'd be happy to, trust me.
I did it again. Still funny.
As far as you know, it is.
You're laughing.